So now it's time to make some changes to our background. We've already done a little bit of customization on the text. Now we want to make this fit our theme, the theme for our product or our website. Let's go down on the layers palette to, in this case, it's called layer 1. Notice how we get a little thumbnail of what's on that layer, and that lets us know this is the background. Okay, we can turn it off and turn it back on. Now let me mention here real quick, when I turn this off, see all the little gray and white checkerboard pattern here? That's Photoshop's way of letting you know that these are transparent pixels. There is absolutely nothing there. And that's just Photoshop's way of letting you know that there is nothing there. If you were to actually save this as a JPEG, then all of this would be white. But that's just how Photoshop lets you know that there are transparent pixels, a little gray and white checkerboard. So what we want to do is change this gradient so that it's maybe, let's go with a dark blue to a lighter blue. But one thing I want to do is I want to have the gradient for the front cover a little different than the gradient for the spine. And in this case, you'll notice that it starts black over here in the lower right, and it goes to white in the upper left of the spine, and the gradient lines up all the way from the cover to the spine. Well, we don't want that in this particular case. We want basically two different kind of gradients. And to accomplish that task, we're going to use the marquee tool. Here is the rectangular marquee tool. If that's not available, just click and hold the button down. A little flyout comes out, and you can see the different kinds of marquee tools that Photoshop has. An elliptical one, and these single row ones down here. Again, we're going to focus on the rectangular one right now. And basically, we're just going to click and drag in the upper right-hand corner, holding the mouse button down until we get, and it'll snap to that guide, and then we can release. The reason that we're making a selection like this with the marquee tool is because when we make a selection, then we perform a specific task, we confine that task to the selection. Now, if I was to paint inside of this selection, any painting that I do would just be confined to this selected area. So let's go ahead and pick our colors first. We have foreground color and background color. And in the case of a gradient, we need to select both of those because we're going to transition from one color to the next. So just click on the foreground color icon. And again, like I said, we're going to go with a blue. Let's go with a fairly dark blue. Click OK. And then we'll select our background color. And let me show you a little trick. I want to get in the same neighborhood as the foreground color. And the way that I can do that, notice I have a little eyedropper right now. If I click anywhere, it will load that color. So now I have loaded my foreground color, and now I can use that as a point of reference and select a lighter color that's maybe similar. Click OK. And now I have a dark blue for my foreground color, a lighter blue for my background color. This is the gradient tool. I'll go ahead and select that. I want to make sure that I have my foreground to background color selected. Notice I've got a ton of other options there. Okay, we'll get into those later. And then I want to make sure that I've got linear selected, which is this first gradient. So I'm going to start in the lower right-hand corner, click and drag, holding the mouse button down. And we're going to let go in the upper left-hand corner here. And now I have that nice gradient from a darker blue to a lighter blue. Notice it is confined to my selection, to my marquee selection. And I painted right on the same layer, so I can paint right over top of existing pixels. Now it's time to grab my marquee tool again. This time, let's make sure we have the new selection option selected. I'm going to click in the upper left-hand corner, click and drag downward, and let it snap to the guide. So now I have selected just the spine area. Again, grabbing the gradient tool. In this case, I could do a totally different kind of gradient. Maybe I want it to go from left to right or right to left. Again, we're confining that painting to inside the selection. I could go from top to bottom. Just, experiment with it and see what looks good in this particular case. I think I'll go ahead and leave it from bottom to top like that. Now to deselect, once you've already made a selection, You can go up to select and go down to deselect, and that'll turn off the little marching ants. Now, of course, we can use those skills that we just learned in much more creative ways. For example, let's grab the rectangular marquee tool. Let's say I want to really draw some attention to this website address. I can click and drag right around that address. Release the mouse button. I've made a rectangular selection. Let's go ahead and select a darker hue of blue. Click OK. And I'm going to go up to Edit and Fill. And incidentally, I personally use keyboard shortcuts quite a bit, but because those can be hard for beginners to remember, I'm going ahead and using the menu options as much as possible here. I want to fill with my foreground color and select OK. And again, we'll go to Select and Deselect. Okay, so I put like a kind of a band behind that and just drawing some more attention to it. Now notice that all of my text is still visible. This is where layers really come in handy in Photoshop. I am drawing right now on the bottom layer. That's where all my painting has occurred. And all of the text layers are on top of that, and that's why you can still see them. If I was to move this layer on top of some other layers, you wouldn't be able to see it. This one says My Marketing. I think this is the title. Yeah. If I click and drag layer 1 on top of My Marketing, notice it disappears because now it is higher up on the stack. So layer 1 is essentially blocking it. It's covering it up. Let's click and drag and move it back down. And it reappears. Okay, so those are some basics to editing the existing layout. Again, we're going to get way more advanced in this. But in just a few minutes, you could load up, the original layout, make a few tweaks, and you've got a totally custom ebook ready to go. Let's go ahead and click the Actions panel. We'll do step 2 of box 2, and let's see what it looks like. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the actions. And literally, once you know how to do those basic steps that we just went through, you can create something like this in like 2 minutes. So those are the basic steps that you can use to customize your layout. In the next video, I'm going to show you another way to get a fantastic looking eCover that's even easier than this.